Hello and welcome to RedLine Solutions webinar. I'd like to give a big thank you for everybody joining us on YouTube today for our session on OS migration for mobile. We're very pleased to have David Levinson from Zebra Technologies and our very own Todd Baggett. So here's the agenda for today. So a little bit about RedLine Solutions. We're established in 1997 and we have a headquarters in Santa Clara, California. We're a leading system integrator with extensive knowledge in barcode, voice, vision, RFID, data capture and identification systems. We work closely with our clients to develop the most suitable, cost-effective solutions for their needs and have a variety of support options to keep those systems running smoothly. We specialize in warehouse management, inventory control, asset tracking, healthcare, and product labeling systems. We work with many types of customers, from Fortune 500 to startups. We have our very own in-house development team that have created a suite of SaaS and server-based inventory and traceability solutions, which are implemented in accounts across the US and Canada. In order to provide our customers with optimum solutions for their business and budgetary needs, we partner with many great companies, but we are very proud to be a Zebra Premier Business Partner, and Zebra are sponsoring this event today. So, without further ado, I will pass this presentation over to David.
Thank you, Adrian. Much appreciated. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm David Levinson. I'm the Channel Account Manager covering California and Nevada and supporting RedLine here in the field. I've been with Zebra for almost 5 years now, and I came on just before Zebra announced their acquisition of Motorola Enterprise Business. So Zebra used to be just a printing company, and now we purchased that wing of Motorola, and that's what we're going to talk about today is the mobile computing side of things, that part that we purchased then. Adrian, you want to advance? Yep. So thank you for having me in today and allowing me to talk a little bit about our main focus here, which is OS migration, operating system migration. What is happening? Why are things changing? We're going to dive into the rugged mobile space, how it looks right now, and what's happening in the post-Windows operating system era. We're going to talk a little bit about security of our operating systems in mobile computing, and then we have support of all the things that we say today in with facts, data, articles, things like that. So you don't have to just take my word for it. Go ahead, Adrian. So what happened? Why are things changing? A few years ago, Microsoft announced that they were ending support for their legacy mobile operating systems in 2020. And for reasons that we'll touch on in a moment, they later then decided to exit the mobile operating system space altogether. So left in the space right now are two major players, Android and iOS. Adrian? Oops, give me one more back. There it is. So like I said, only two players really left. This is a look at worldwide smartphone operating systems going up to Q1 of 2017. As you can see, Android is overwhelmingly dominating the global market, with iOS as a distant second. But in Q1 of 2017, Microsoft only had 0.1% of the overall mobile operating system market. So it's easy to see now why they had decided to exit this space. So I told you you don't have to take my word for it, right? We were able to pull articles dating back to last year that show that Microsoft is leaving the space. And we've been very closely aligned with them during this process. In fact, when they did release Windows 10 IoT, their mobile operating system for enterprise, Zebra did release a device that was capable of working on that operating system. But we announced the end of sale as soon as Microsoft finalized their plans to sunset Windows 10 mobile. So we have our finger on the pulse of the operating system world and where folks are going. So as Windows has been the dominating operating system in this space for over, for decades, with over 15 million units sold just since 2010. That's going away, and the future is in Android. And Zebra has been on this path toward Android for over 8 years. On this slide, in the transition away from Windows legacy operating systems, some companies have tried to introduce consumer-grade devices, particularly iOS devices, and have had all kinds of issues. The examples on this slide will tell you about total cost of ownership and things like that, but I wanted to bring your attention to the quote on the bottom in blue about Target. Target deployed a few years ago iPod Touches for all of their floor employees. When an iOS update came out, we as consumers, kind of as we do reflexively, accepted the update and updated the iPhones or the iPods. But the applications that Target had developed were not compatible with the new operating system, and their entire operation went down. So they called Zebra. Now, when you walk into a Target store, every floor employee has a TC51 Android mobile computer on their wrist or on their belt. So don't take my word for it. Like I said, go out into the field, see it in action next time you're at your local Target. So Zebra and our partners like RedLine have been preparing for this, like I said, for many years, and we are leading the market in Android development. Go ahead, Adrian. And this one's got a couple of things, so you got to click through it. There we go. So this one's a bit of an eye chart, but with over 23 devices in production over the last 7 years and over 8 years of developing Android add-ons, optimizations, components, things like that, Zebra knows Android better than anyone. This is our bread and butter. Switching over to Android may seem like a daunting process, but it actually is a great opportunity to build efficiencies into your workflow and make your operation leaner. One example that we're going to touch on today is the adoption of touchscreens. So Zebra wanted to know if a virtual keyboard would increase productivity. And on the next slide, so we commissioned a study, and we found that it did. So not only is Windows going away, but folks are also unhappy about what they're using now. So we really have an opportunity to increase the capabilities that are out of reach with current applications. We have an opportunity to update the old green screen that is not conducive to a younger workforce. And the costs of keeping existing solutions are increasing all the time. So 57% of enterprise mobility customers are not happy with their current mobile experience. So out there, the opportunity to move to Android is not just a necessity, it's an opportunity to really improve the applications. Go ahead. So I mentioned that we performed a study and found that moving to a touch screen away from a physical keyboard actually did improve efficiency. Data entry was 39% faster on a digital QWERTY keyboard than a hard ABC layout, and 20% faster on a virtual keyboard than a physical QWERTY keyboard. Also, typing speeds increased when moving to a virtual keyboard, and one stat that's not on here is that there was a 60% reduction in data entry errors. Now, I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers out at you, but the bottom line is touchscreens are not just the wave of the future, they're already here. So go ahead, Adrian. Take a look here at the trend in field mobility application. All touch products were already about 50% of the market back in 2016 and have increased since. To be clear, physical keyboards are not going away, but I encourage all of you to work with your RedLine rep to discuss what moving to a touchscreen solution can actually bring to your workflow. On a side note about touchscreens, We sometimes get the objection that the virtual keyboard takes up space on the screen when it pops up. So along with some of our partners, we developed a transparent keyboard so we can see what's going on underneath it. It's pretty cool. It's like we thought of everything, right? So Adrian, go ahead. So RedLine and Zebra have the hardware products on Android operating systems to get you through this migration, right? To get you to the next steps. So from the industry-changing TC8000 to the new MC33 and the full Android vehicle mount VC80, we could do full hour-long webinars on each of these products. But for now, what's important to note is that whatever your need is, RedLine can help you find the Zebra device that can maximize your productivity. Go ahead, Adrian. But it isn't just the device. We have an extensive accessory portfolio that ensures your device fits every environment. We'll also touch a little bit on the interface utilities that Zebra has developed to help maximize that productivity and security with Android. And then additional solutions like push-to-talk and Workforce Connect for staff communications. Your application is so much more than just the hardware it runs on. So we have to be able to maximize the effectiveness of any deployment utilizing these tools. Adrian? This is a really busy slide, but it's just to show how Zebra Mobility DNA suite of components that I alluded to a second ago benefits every level of the organization, from the actual end user all the way up through the IT department. The best part is you don't have to memorize this slide and even read it. Your RedLine rep already knows all about this and can help you find the right programs for your use case. Okay. So now, having been in the Android market for as long as we have, we've heard all the objections. Probably the biggest one we've heard is security. Zebra, in our Mobility DNA suite, has created programs to secure devices in a robust manner, and we're going to get into those now. This slide is the basic approach that Zebra takes toward device security. And we have tools for each of them. Preventing harmful applications from getting onto the device in the first place, we developed a product called Enterprise Home Screen, which locks the device down for users to only see the applications that are approved by administrators. This keeps folks from scrolling through Facebook while they're supposed to be working, and prevents them from downloading any applications that may be harmful to your network. So we have detection features as well on the devices, and we provide security updates to the operating system even after Google ends support for an older version of Android. And that's a product called Lifeguard, which we're going to touch on in just a second. So who needs updates? This is a very important slide because it shows what the risks really are if we do not take security seriously. When Windows stops supporting the legacy operating systems, there will be no more security patches to protect against the next big hack. Now, I'm not trying to be overly dramatic here, but the threats are real and they are out there. It's important to note that Microsoft is already not providing patches for some of the vulnerabilities like Spectre that you see on this slide. That's one where legacy operating systems will not be patched. So the risk is real, it's happening, it's out there. Lucky for us though, on this slide here, Android and Zebra together are prepared and capable of protecting against that next big hack. So as you can see on this slide, the secure government applications are moving to Android, and it's meeting all of the regulatory certifications in all the vertical markets where they apply. We already talked about locking down the devices with Enterprise Home Screen. Whitelisting applications is another way to prevent the Google Play Store from bringing in any malware. There are tons of examples of how Android is secure in the enterprise, and even more so with Zebra mobility extensions. we've talked about prevention. That was our first step. And now I'd like to move on to the security updates portion of our strategy. So I told you we have heard all the objections to Android, and another common one is that OS support from Google ends pretty quickly. It has a shorter life cycle. How can we get the most longevity out of a hardware investment in a long-lasting device if the operating system can't be supported for that long? Well, we thought of that, and that's what LifeGuard does on the next slide here. And you'll have to click through some animations there, Adrian. But what LifeGuard does is move support from Google over to Zebra to provide security updates for our devices after Google ends support. So our hardware is meant to run for a decade. Operating systems are not supported for that long anymore, except when they are with LifeGuard. On the slide here at the bottom, you'll see the 3 steps: extend the security life, security while you transition, and aggressive predictable updates. We're going to go into that, but what's important is, as long as you have a Zebra OneCare contract on your device, there's no fees for any of that. So we are extending the operating system security life at no cost to the customer. Go ahead to the next slide, Adrian. So what's the trends, right? How does it work? The trend is longer device life expectancy. So we've extended support 2 years after the end of sale for that OS version. Then, with how often new operating systems are released, we start the 12-month transition period to your next version of Android, which we will support you through. And as vulnerabilities pop up, we provide regular OS security updates to ensure you're protected. We'll elaborate on that in a minute, but I do want to bring this to your attention. The graph at the bottom of the screen right now shows the number of published vulnerabilities that we've seen, and it's a 61% growth in 2017. That's an exponential graph right there. The threats are happening, they are real, and we're protecting the customers from that. So we talked about what those security patches look like. We have the predictable patch schedule as well as regular security bulletins. We also have event-driven security updates. So given how many of these threats are out there, over 800 in 2017, this could be more frequent. We have our finger on the pulse with Google and with the Android teams to make sure that we are patching these devices properly and securing them. So that is something we take very seriously. Go ahead, Adrian. So I'm going to kind of veer off a little bit here and switch gears for a moment. It's not just operating systems that companies need to be thinking about refreshing and thinking about the next generation of technology. So on top of legacy operating systems losing support, WAN radio technology is also evolving. As you can see on the left side of the screen here, Verizon and Sprint have already announced the end of 2G and 3G support and activation. They're taking down those cell towers altogether and replacing them with LTE towers. And we're going to be talking about 5G and things in the future. The idea is that developing a strategy now is important because those technologies are going away. And those devices are still out there in the fields. I mean, I've seen Palm Pilots still being used, still in production. So please work with your RedLine rep if you have devices that use WAN radios and use these older technologies. Put a plan in place to make sure that you're not left out in the cold. So let's recap what we discussed today before we open it up for questions, because I think that's the most important part today. We talked about how the world is moving on from Windows Mobile and CE. Those are going away. They're not extending support. That's it. There's a deadline. Microsoft itself as a whole is moving away from mobile operating systems altogether. We talked about how the market is moving heavily toward Android in the enterprise space, and that consumer-grade devices cause more problems than they solve, like in the Target example I mentioned. When we touched on some of the optimizations you can get with an all-touch Android device, from more fluid workflows and efficiencies all the way down to a transparent virtual keyboard. We also touched on how Zebra and our partners like RedLine have the pedigree and the proven track record of success that with Android that make us the market leaders. We have support and value adds to make your transition secure and successful. And I sprinkled in some LTE migration stuff at the end.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much, David, for a great presentation. And thank you, Zebra, for sponsoring the event today. And thanks also for everybody tuning in. And if you have any questions on anything that we discussed today, please contact your RedLine Solutions sales rep, or you can call us at this telephone number, or you can email us at sales@redlinesolutions.com. So I look forward to seeing you again on another RedLine Solutions webinar, and speak to you soon. Bye.